with Steve Hellwagon, 247.
Hey, Coach. Good morning. Thanks a lot for joining us today. I know signing day is probably the big thing, but reports out there about Parker Fleming and that you're elevating him to a full-time position. Anything that you have to say, I guess, this morning about that and why he was the right guy at the right time, I guess?
Yeah, we kind of went through that process over the last couple of weeks, and once Greg decided he was going to retire, kind of figure out what was right for our guys at the time, and figure out what was the right decision for our team and for the defense. And so after looking at it and considering a lot of different things, the thing that came to me first off was that Matt Barnes really has done an excellent job in special teams. He's got a great background on defense, and I think he's a great young coach. Speaking with the defensive staff, speaking with Kerry Combs, what we've decided to do is take him from special teams and make him the secondary coach. I think this is a great move. It's going to allow him an opportunity to have that room, and also allow Kerry, free him up a little bit more to move within the linebackers, the defensive line, and also have his hands in the secondary. Certainly, he's still going to be involved with the corners and the safeties as well. And so for a lot of reasons, excited about this. And then from there, now that Matt is going to be spending his time with the secondary, he'll still help with the special teams, but we wanted, again, some continuity with what we're doing on special teams. We've done a great job here with special teams. And Parker Fleming is somebody that knows what we do very, very well. He's got the respect of our team, and we think that's a really good move there. And promoting from within is something that I believe strongly in. And I believe that it's going to be an opportunity for these guys to really be part of our program for a long time and keep some continuity. Just looking back at the year, a lot of great things we did in a tough spot. And I think now that we have a whole year with an offseason and a spring and a preseason, this is going to allow us the best chance to put our guys in the best position to be successful.
Yep. And it looks like you're going to continue to run the race, it seems, with at least one high-profile prospect. Just how comfortable you are with the work that you're able to do remotely as it is with whatever prospects remain out there for 2021.
It's a very strange year. Usually we'll wait in front of the fax machine. Instead of that, we just got done seeing those guys in the weight room working out, 15 of them. So almost your whole class is already here working, and they've got through the quarantine, and just amazing. But yeah, this year is very, very different. So we're going to keep pounding away, keep recruiting. We're certainly working really hard in the next class. But there are still a few remaining guys out there that we'll keep recruiting throughout the next couple months, hoping that we can start getting some guys here to visit maybe in late spring, early summer.
Thanks.
All right, we'll go next to Rob Aller, Columbus Dispatch.
Hey, Ryan, can you hear me all right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, well, you've had some time to decompress here, so I'm just curious, looking back, how would you rate how guys performed positively, negatively, impact of having no fans at games? I know you always talk about, you don't know what you have till 100,000 are in the shoe. Did you see anything one way or the other of individual performances? I mean, like in golf, some guys played better with no fans.
Yeah. I think that it was very different. I think there was definitely a point in those first 6 games or so where not having fans in the shoe did have a little bit of effect on defense. Not having the crowd on third down, and then more importantly, even in the second half, as we start to go up a few scores, you really feel the crowd there and just get behind you a little bit with the momentum. But I also think that we did a good job of bringing our own juice. I think when you look at our sideline in some of those games, the way that we played, it was really fun to watch. It's something I watch when I put the game film back on, as I look at the sideline. And we had a really energetic group on the sideline. Guys played hard. They brought their own energy. And it was something that everyone throughout America has had to handle in all sports. But I think if you look back on it, we did a really good job in that area. So it's been a while since we played in front of fans. And I think that it did have an effect on our players. I think the fact that they haven't seen, the crowd, they haven't seen the faces, and they didn't get typically, they get a lot of feedback for doing well after the games and after they score a touchdown or after they get a sack, the feeling of that crowd roar, that's a big part of why they go play college football, is that adrenaline rush. And that wasn't there. It was different. And I thought our guys handled it well, but certainly we're looking forward to getting back to normal, hopefully in the near future.
Thanks.
All righty, we'll go next to Austin Ward. Austin.
Ryan, aside from the continuity piece with Parker Fleming, what is it about him that impressed you that you wanted to keep him aboard? Because you could have filled that position pretty much anywhere you wanted to. What is it about him that stood out aside from just keeping him in the program?
Yeah, first off, he's very bright. He's really sharp. He's done a really good job. I mean, just when he'll step into our offensive meetings, he can go over to defense, and I think the guys on the team feel like he's a wealth of knowledge and that they get him better. And one of the things that we talk about a lot here on special teams is that when you're in a special teams meeting, you're not just in there to get better at special teams. You're in there to get better at football, something that Matt Barnes really brought here, did a great job. And I think that Parker's, really embraced that. And his knowledge of what we're doing is excellent. So first off, his intelligence, I think he's done a good job of connecting with the players, not being able to be on the field, but just being in the building has been excellent. And again, I think it's really important that we have a lot of guys who have been, 2, 3, 4 years in this program and in this style of special teams. And Parker believes in what we do. He believes in our system. And so because of that, I think it's going to be great. Now, our other assistant coaches, Kerry Combs and Matt Barnes and, Al Washington, Tony Alford, Brian Hartline, they're still all involved in the special teams. I'll be involved in special teams. So it's a group effort. But I think that Parker's background here, he's been here several years. He's been in, several big games, understands game planning and those type of things. He's going to be really good for us.
All righty, we'll go next to Dave Biddle, 247.
Hi, Ryan. I'm just curious to get your philosophy on hiring consultants and analysts. It seems like every head coach has a different philosophy. Some guys have seems like they've got 12 guys on their assistants, their consultants and analyst staff. Some guys feel like it's too many cooks in the kitchen. What's your philosophy on that? And do you plan on hiring a consultant for the defensive side of the ball?
Yeah, no, it's a great question, Dave. It's something that I've spent a lot of time thinking about. Like you said, every program is different. You have to do what's right for your program. And now that I'm going into year 3, taking a hard look at that and seeing, if there are some people around who would be the right fit. I think the big thing for us is it has to be the right fit culturally. It has to be the right personality and bring the right things to the table. And so certainly looking at all those things and, over the next couple of weeks, have an opportunity to bring some guys in and possibly talk about those type of things. But looking at all of those analysts, QCs, different types of backgrounds, and trying to figure out what that right, mix is going into the season.
Real quick, I know we asked you about this last Friday when we talked to you, but do you know the logistics for spring ball yet? Like when spring ball is going to start and when the spring game is going to be yet?
Yeah, we're kind of projecting out right now. It's kind of a soft schedule based on a lot of things, but we're hoping that we can play the spring game possibly that April 17th weekend, probably start middle of March and have probably 4 weeks of spring ball. That's not set in stone right now, but that's what we're targeting.
Thanks, Ryan.
Yep.
All righty, we'll go next to Dan Hope, 11 Warriors.
Hey, Ryan, just obviously when you brought Kerry Combs to Ohio State, I mean, obviously his wealth of secondary knowledge was a huge reason why you did that. So just curious, is there any concern at all of, him not having as much influence in the secondary if Matt Barnes is taking over that role?
He's still going to have as much influence as he had last year. I think with this, it's just a different position. It's like, I'm the head coach and obviously help with the offense, but I still certainly have a lot to do with the quarterback play. It's the same idea. It's just a different role. And I think for Kerry, he understands that he's not the secondary coach. He's the defensive coordinator. Now his background and how they do things is critically important to make sure that he and Matt are on the same page and that it's being done the way that Kerry wants it done. And there's going to be a lot of back and forth there. But I think this is going to allow him to, like I said, take a little bit of a step back, take a little bit of a wider approach on this thing, get with the linebackers, get with the guys up front. And, as a coordinator, and Matt's such a great teacher, and he's really good at what he does. And now he's got Al and he's got Larry. I mean, he's got a really good staff there. And I think that opportunity for him to take a step back, be the coordinator, bounce around a little bit. Still going to have a major impact, still going to take corners, still going to take some of the nickels and those type of things and work with them. But just a little bit of a different role. And I think that's going to really help this year.
And when you have a guy that you're recruiting that might not make a decision until April or May, how do you handle that in terms of roster management?
Yeah, I mean it's tricky, and it's tricky now because there's a lot of dynamics at play with the extra year of eligibility. You know, it's very unique. These next few years will be a little bit of a challenge that way. But you know, with the one-time transfer rule, you know, hopefully we don't lose anybody. But you know, I think the opportunity for some of these guys to move on, coming possibly, you know, maybe late May, based on when that rule comes up. You know, there's going to be opportunity, and unfortunately there may be some guys who decide that they want to move on. And so we have to project that out the best we can. But again, that's a moving target as well. And we'll try to do the best we can. But, you know, if there's certain people out there that we really want to save a spot for, we will. And we make sure that, you know, we always have something available for a great player.
All righty, we'll go next. Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch.
Hi, Ryan. You've had time to digest what happened in the Alabama game, specifically how their offense was able to exploit some things. You were asked this, I think, in the last Zoom, whether that would prompt you to reconsider certain elements of your scheme in light of that. Where do you kind of stand with that right now? How comfortable are you with the scheme that was played in that game, and that what you do is good enough to take that last big step?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. It's something I've been spending the last 3 weeks thinking about. You know, when you think about the Clemson game and then you come back with that Alabama game, it's like, you know, two ranges of emotions. You know, what a great win we had, just really played well in that game. And then certainly the Alabama game didn't go the way we wanted to. So how do you evaluate that? And that's kind of the hard thing for me. What I think I've come to grips with after stepping away is that final game was hard to evaluate with all the different dynamics at play. And so, again, we talked about this before. When something like this comes up, you try to figure out, is it personnel, is it coaching, or is it scheme? You know, I would say if you're looking at it, I think we have good enough personnel. I think we got to continue to take a look at how we put our guys in certain situations. But I think we have good enough personnel. We were down some guys in that game, but you know, scheme, I like our scheme. But I also think there were times where we could have done a better job schematically in that game. And then coaching, I think that's also, you know, a chunk of it. And we could have done a better job coaching there. So when you evaluate it, again, going back to the Clemson game, going back to the Northwestern game, I thought there was really good things there. In that last game, it wasn't. So do we overreact? No, I'm not going to do that. Not right now. I think that with a whole off season, a spring ball, a preseason, we're going to get the right personnel in place. We're going to make some adjustments schematically, and then we're going to do an unbelievable job coaching it. And so that's going to be the focus as we head into the spring, these next 6.5 weeks, and then obviously as we head into the fall.
Thank you.
All righty, we'll go next to Doug Limerice, Cleveland.com.
Hey, Ryan. I know Greg was making, I think, 1.1 million or so last year, and we all know how crazy everything was this past year for the entire athletic department from a budget standpoint. Is there anything specifically that the football program has had to adjust that you have had to make decisions about from a financial standpoint in discussions with Gene? And how did any of that factor into making a hire here? If you would have wanted to hire somebody at over $1 million to replace Greg Madison, could you have done that, or were there some financial parameters here?
Well, I think first off, in this year, there's been every decision we make financially has to take the budget and COVID and the athletics department into account. So that's every decision that we make. And yeah, I mean, it's been a strain on everybody. I don't think that this decision was made with any of those constraints in mind. However, I think that it was more about how do we keep continuity on that side of the ball, and how do we continue to just build what we've been working on here for a couple of years and put the right people into place. I think when you bring in somebody new, that brings in a different dynamic, and certainly looked at some of those things. But First off, I thought this did two things, though. One, it kept continuity, but two, it put a little bit more, attention on the back end. And coming off of that last game, coming off of this season, I think that's something we had to do. So, you could bring in somebody to replace Greg. Greg was more in the run game. He spent time with the linebackers. I think Al Washington did an excellent job with the linebackers. So his role is going to increase this season. And with he and Larry, I mean, they're really going to, I thought they did an excellent job last year of really with the front and the backers. So now they're going to lose that presence with Greg in there. But now Matt comes in full time and spends more time on the back end. So it does two things there: continuity, but then more of a focus on the back end.
All righty, we'll go next to Bill Landis, The Athletic.
Hey, Ryan. How did you weigh, I guess, that continuity or the desire for continuity with wanting to bring in some different ideas? You talked about maybe wanting to tweak some things with the scheme. And I know guys on your staff have diverse backgrounds and different schemes, but it seems like maybe to do that, you could have brought in somebody with knowledge and a different kind of defense, and you didn't elect to do that. So how did you weigh those two things? And secondly, is anyone on your staff taking on Greg's co-coordinator role?
No one's going to take over that title. I mean, I thought about it, but we have really good minds in there, really good thoughts. Kerry came from the NFL. He was there for a couple of years. And, I mean, there's plenty of ideas there. It's just a matter of now, how do we implement it and how do we do a better job of coaching it? That's really what it comes down to. I mean, if there's some scheme out there that someone could bring in that would, that we haven't seen before, don't know, then yeah, I would do that. But there isn't. We know the different schemes. We know the different coverages. These guys are really sharp. But now, how do you implement those the right way? And how do you pick the right ones? And I think that's the key. And I think I mention that all the time. It's the same thing on offense. Like the way that we looked a couple years ago with JT, and then with Dwayne, and then with Justin, and now how we're going to move forward here in the spring, it's going to look different. It has to, because there's different people. It's a different quarterback, different set, of personnel. And I think that's the same on defense. Just because we were a 4-down cover 3 2 years ago, that doesn't necessarily mean we have to be that the majority of the time. But in terms of the backgrounds and different, what we ran, and Kerry and Larry were involved with even before I got here, that was more of a quarters-based team or a quarters-based scheme. Al has a great background coming from up north. Matt Barnes did some really interesting things when he was at Maryland with a different set of personnel there. So I think there's really good background there. There's really good scheme. But now how do we implement and find the right things? And, certainly the last thing we're doing is making excuses or built-in excuses. But I think that the way that the season played out with less games, I think that the way that, the no spring and the preseason being chopped up just didn't help. So now we have a whole year. And I think once we have a whole season and a whole year to evaluate that, I think as we sit here next year, we'll have a much better feel for where we're at.
All right, folks, we've got about 10 minutes left, so we'll get through as many as we can. We'll go to Nathan Baird, Cleveland.com.
Ryan, what is it about promoting from within that you say you believe so strongly in? Maybe especially contrasted against just, you would think, the amount of talent and the interest that you could get from just throughout college football for a position like this.
Well, again, I think when you look at what do we need, I thought we needed more attention in the back end. So then you say to yourself, well, do you go get a secondary coach somewhere throughout the country that knows our scheme, that understands what we want to get done and fits? And then all of a sudden the list gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And then I watch the way that Matt Barnes works. I think he's really good. I think he's really, really good. And if I didn't believe that, I wouldn't just do it. But I think that, to bring in somebody that, has a different set of, thoughts on coverages and beliefs and all those things, that's a different dynamic. And I think Matt Barnes will do this job better than anybody else in the country for what we need. And if I didn't think that, we wouldn't do it, but after a lot of talk and a lot of conversation and watching a guy work for the last couple of years, I believe in Matt. I think he's going to do wonderful.
All righty, next up, Joey Kaufman, Columbus Dispatch.
Ryan, there have been a handful of guys, I think so far, Haskell, Thayer Munford, Antoine Jackson, who've all announced that they're taking advantage of the rule to come back for an extra year as a senior. I think the count is 4 or so right now. Have there been any other guys who have told you they're coming back? How many do you expect to take advantage of that rule in total yet, or do you not know?
Of the guys currently on the team?
Of the seniors from last year, like how many in total do you know will take advantage of the rule?
Yeah, I don't know the exact number, but all the guys that have not declared are planning on coming back to play.
All righty, next up we'll go to Jeremy Birmingham, Leonard Monroe.
Hey, Ryan, can you talk a little bit about the reaction to seeing your 15 early enrollees, guys that you recruited for 2 years and hadn't had a chance to see? Once you got back from vacation, how it was to actually get some FaceTime with these kids again. But then also seeing them in their first workouts. What were your impressions? Who impressed you? What did you see out of these kids and that they were forced to handle this last year in a way no other recruits have ever had to?
First off, the couple things that come to mind. First off, when they got here, they have to quarantine for a week. Very difficult, very challenging. We would usually have dinners with the families, spend some time in the Woody with the coaches. Weren't able to do that. So we're still in COVID protocol. So these guys, had that different experience coming on campus. The second thing is really, really impressed with the quality of people in this class. First off, they're really tight. And I saw a couple guys having lunch together, and I sat down and they didn't know each other until they got here, other than Zoom. And they hadn't really seen each other and met each other ever in person, but they're laughing with each other, making fun of each other, joking like they've been around for known each other for years. And I couldn't help but think it's because of this right here, the Zoom. They did an unbelievable job of getting to know each other over the past year. And because of that, it's already a really tight group. The maturity of these guys is off the chart. The leadership already with these guys is excellent. All the feedback we're getting from our people, these 15 guys got a chance to be special. And, while they haven't done a ton working out yet, because some of them are still working through the quarantine phase and different things, I can tell you that they're very, very talented as well. Really got a chance to come in here over the next 6.5 weeks and get after it, get stronger, understand our culture, and then compete in the spring to play. So really, really excited about this group. You're on signing day, usually talking about how you can't wait to get going. And we already have them in the building and they're working out right now. So really cool and really, really good group.
Was there anyone that surprised you just with the way they came in physically or the changes that you'd seen in them from the last time they were there?
It's hard to say because once you say something about one, everyone else feels slighted. So it's hard. But I will say I was very impressed with Marvin Harrison. He looked like a different person when he walked in the building. Like he was, 6'3" and north of 200 pounds and looks great. But there's a bunch of them. First time I got a chance to see Tylee Williams in person, and really moves well for a big size. That's a big inside guy that we're excited to have. But there's, they're all great. They all look good. And it's going to be great to see them start competing.
Thanks.
All righty, we'll go next to Patrick Murphy, 247.
Ryan, I know it's early to talk 2021, but I'm curious about the running back situation. Obviously, with the way Trey ended the season, he was on a roll, but Master had a good year. You saw some things from some of the younger guys, and then you obviously bring in 2 talented running backs. So how do you look at that position as you head into the offseason?
A lot of depth, a lot of guys, but certainly a lot of talent, and we're gonna what a great opportunity this spring to have these guys go compete. And we're going to try to do the best we can to simulate games as much as possible in the spring to get a feel for where these guys are at. But like you said, Master comes back, which is great. He brings some experience to the table. Marcus Crowley now is coming off of that ACL, so now we get to see the best version of him. Mayan really popped this year, showed some great things. And then now Steele is going to get an opportunity to compete. And then you have the 2 young guys. And I know that they're coming in here to play as well. So, like you said, a lot of depth there, but an opportunity for these guys to compete, and it's going to be exciting to watch.
All righty, we'll go next to Tony Gerdeman, Buckeye Scoop.
Ryan, from the outside down the stretch, maybe against Alabama, it looked like just the secondary numbers weren't there in terms of the guys that you could throw out there. How do you feel? First, was that an accurate assessment? And then how do you feel about the numbers? Obviously, you're adding a bunch more guys, but how do you feel about the numbers in the secondary moving forward next year?
Yeah, I feel better going into this season than I did last season. I think that, we want to have 22 on the team, and I believe it's 19 on scholarship. And we've done a really good job of getting some really good players in here. Now they're going to be young, and they're not all in here now. There's several of those guys who signed who aren't going to be here until the summer. But we're going to try to do everything we can to get them rolling on Zoom and just make sure we monitor their physical workouts to make sure that when they get in here, they're ready to roll. But I think you're right. Part of that season was, if you have a 12-game regular season, you're probably playing more guys and you feel more confident playing more guys. And I don't think we felt that way going into the home stretch. And so you're right. We didn't have as much depth out there. The one guy I thought that did step up was Lathan Ransom. I'm really excited about him. I thought he played really well in that Clemson game. And he's got a lot of great football ahead of him. He's a young guy. He came in, I think he was 17 years old, and he's got a chance to be a really good player. But those younger guys did get better as the season went on. They just didn't get an opportunity to get on the field. Well, now that's all going to change. And now it's a whole new set of guys. And we have a team meeting this morning, and we're just going to talk to those guys that the freshmen are no longer freshmen, and now they're sophomores. And sophomores are now upperclassmen. And the juniors and seniors, this is it for them. This is their last run. So everyone's, kind of spot on the team and pecking order changes. And so now these young guys are going to have to step up and play. And this is important because we missed out on a lot of snaps this year. And we've talked about this for a while. And so a lot of these guys are still kind of figuring out where they're at in all this. And so this is a big, big spring and a big off season, probably one of the biggest off seasons we've had in a while here for those younger guys.
All righty, we got time for three more, so we'll get through those. We'll start with Brendan Gulick. Brendan.
Hi, Coach. I'm curious. Realize Kyle McCord has only been on campus here for a short while, but what's the quarterback room been like so far in terms of just chemistry and the way that CJ and Jack and Kyle in particular are kind of getting to know each other?
Yeah, really, they're all getting here this week. Getting back from being home, so they're having spent a lot of time together. But it's going to be a good competition. I know that Jack and CJ, their relationship grew as the season went on, but they're going to do a great job bringing Kyle in, and they'll spend a lot of time together. And what ends up happening is when you come together in quarterback, I know what this is about. I've spent a lot of time with these guys. At first, you're kind of adversaries, and then before you know it, you're best friends, and you're the best man in their wedding. That's just kind of how it goes in that room. So the more time they spend together, the closer they'll get.
We'll go next to Tim May. Tim.
Yeah, thank you very much. Hey, Ryan, two quickies. Number one, what is the max number of scholarships you're being allowed with this, with the COVID, what do you call it, ability to bring guys back, et cetera? Is it a sliding number? And number two, when you're looking at these running backs, what is it that you want to see flash from them in the spring that could really, like a young guy like Trevion Henderson, could get him into your picture?
Yep. For the running back question, you're looking for versatility, but you're looking for accountability. And a big part of that is holding on to the football. If you cannot hold on to the football, you can't play running back here at Ohio State. And that's the number one thing. And so that's the first thing. But then after that, it's versatility, being able to protect, being able to run routes, but then also having versatility in the run game. Are you just a gap scheme guy, or can you run zone? Can you run the stretch? Can you run the inside zone? And then how do you finish runs? At first contact, are you finishing those runs and turning them 2 and 3 into 4? That's really important. And then the last part is, can you hit the home run? Can you get to the second level, make a safety miss, and turn a gain of 15 into a home run? So I think all of those things are into consideration when you're looking for great backs. Obviously, vision is something that we all look for when we're looking for back vision and feet. And then the last question about the scholarship count, it's very unique. There's no cap on it. It really has to do with, you're still under the 85 when it comes to your scholarship count, but then there's for the guys who have graduated or have that fifth year, they're not considered into the count. So it's a strange thing that for the next, really 3 to 4 years is going to be, like you said, kind of a sliding number. But there's no cap on it.
Gotcha. Thanks, man.
All righty, we'll wrap it up today with Clay Hall. Clay.
Hey, Ryan, it seems like the last 15, 20 minutes we've been talking about sort of reassessing and tinkering. How much do you enjoy this time of year, at least when you get past signing day, that you can get on the dry erase board or a legal pad and get in the lab, as the kids say, and start to maybe formulate some new ideas, scheming, et cetera?
Yeah, I mean, that's what this time of year is for. What we're doing is really good. So you can't all of a sudden start to change crazy. You have to, like you said, just kind of tweak some things here and there, and then figure out. It really starts with who you have in your personnel. And it starts exactly with that. You put those guys up on the board, and you figure out, how do we put these guys in best position? What schemes, what different ways can we put these guys in a situation to be successful? And that's where it starts, and then it goes from there. So again, what we've done, we won 4 straight Big Ten championships here. Certainly had a huge win, the CFP against Clemson. And so, we certainly don't want to start changing things, but we do want to make sure that we're tweaking things the right way and that we're continuing to build and stay ahead of the curve.
Do things feel
All right,
more?
Coach Day. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Clay, go ahead. You can ask one more question.
I'm just curious, now that you're back and everybody's sort of back in the mix, is anything more normal than it was? Because you seem to be planning, obviously, for hopefully a more normal existence with spring camp, et cetera.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing for us is just that we're planning on having a somewhat normal spring where we can have 6 weeks of a lead up of working in the facility and then having a normal spring practice schedule. The thing that isn't different is we're still under COVID protocols. So we still can't have a lot of group things together, and we have to make sure we're still following all those things. We're still being tested and all that, but we're hoping all to be together and we're not broken up like we were last year. So.
Thank you.
All right, Coach.
Mike,
thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you guys. Thanks.